Hello and welcome to the Delirium engine. I am Mekhalikhar, also known as Bryant, and here with me today, I'm with the Barbarian. Swampy and Shooty are both in the land of winds and ghosts, and they won't be coming back this week. On this show, just to sort of hop into it, I guess, we go through a series of rules right now that I wrote in university. And we will analyze them and take them apart and talk about them in the hopes of discovering the inner secret truths of all of these beautiful rules. With that said, I think we'll just hop right into it. Today's episode is going to be a bit interesting. It's got a really fun topic that I hope we can all get through. Hopefully there's actually enough to cover here. I might just have to change gears and start arguing for or against it depending on where the Barbarian is. I didn't ask him ahead of time. He just showed up. And hopefully he's going to be like, nah, man, you know, ERP, my sonic trans diaper fetish. That's good. I like that. And I'll just be like, no, man, that makes a bad game. And then we'll have a really good conversation. But somehow I suspect that might not be the case. Somehow I suspect that he might not be into the sonic fetishism that we might be discussing.
You're very astute.
Okay, so without further ado, our topic for this week, and you'll have to excuse the old drawing, rules for successful GMs. Number 5, torture, rape, and sexual encounters should fade to black. The danger is too great. So, Mr. the Barbarian, I think I'll let you start this off. Well, what do you think of that little phrase there? The danger is too great. Do you think it's too great, or should we all be talking about how much damage our dildo does? And
I think the danger is too great for at least one of those topics. That being the rape topic. I mean, that you should just steer clear of in any kind of game, because the word and the concept of rape should not factor in to something that is labeled as game.
That's probably a very good point. Well,
no,
okay.
Not probably. There's no doubt that it's a good one.
I would probably have to agree with it, considering I think in this case I more or less agree with University Bryant here. Mm-hmm. It creates a horrible cringe fest, but tell you what, let's go through each of these points. Like this phrase has a little bit to unpack. You know, it has 3 things, and then it's got the last phrase. Yep. So why don't we start with the last phrase? The danger is too great. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's talk about what we think these dangers are, or at least what you might think the dangers are. Maybe I'll say what I think the dangers are. As I have always, we got pieces of paper in front of us, so we're not interrupting each other, even though we like to ramble. Yep. And yeah, okay. I guess I can go first, because I wrote the rule. Mm-hmm. If I remember correctly, what I was thinking of here was in university we had, and I'll just give a little context, we had a club full of people, some of which were socially awkward, some of which weren't, some of which had women in the gaming group, some of which didn't. Okay? And sometimes these sorts of topics came up, because sometimes the ladies, they like to produce these topics, because they want to explore these things. And sometimes the guys want to explore these topics with the ladies. And sometimes people are just stuck sitting there watching this horse shit happen. Yeah. And sometimes the GM uses his magical GM powers to make this happen. So the danger I see usually with bringing this stuff up, and we'll go through each one of those individually, like I said. But you end up creating this weird feeling in your game that's real dirty. You kind of feel scuzzy. And you might not realize what you're doing when you're doing it, but it's there. And sometimes it creates out-of-game scuzziness too, and that's something we don't want to have. Now, once again, just for people who might not have listened to this podcast before, arguments like if you have, you know, a good party, or in this case, it'd be like if all of your party is consensual. So, like, I think I shortened these rules. The original rule was something like, unless explicitly stated as a theme of your game. But once again, that's not really an argument. Like, you could do anything. If you want to have an erotic roleplay fur pile, and everybody's into that, that's for you and your team to hang out with, right? That's That is between you, yourself, and you. Well, what do you think? Danger is too great. What kind of dangers do you think? Do you have any experiences, or do you have any comments that you want to say? Let's hear it out, Mr. the Barbarian.
I think the danger is too great. Not just, as you had mentioned, in-game, but out-of-game. Because, like, out-of-game, the kind of people who are engaging in this kind of perverse activity when it comes to a fantasy game, you kind of start to wonder about them as a person. I played with one individual once. I was kind of the meat shield of the group. My character, he was a big old Minotaur guy I've mentioned before. And we were playing with, he was some sort of sorcerer guy, and he was chaotic, evil, stupid, and let's call him Matthias Flittis.
Okay.
Let's call him that. And he had this weird thing where his character, yeah, his character was like trying to be a sexual deviant dom, and you're like, what the fuck's going on there? Oh, pardon my French, where it's out the window and it's only 3 minutes in. But yeah, like afterwards you're kind of like you're flatlining the game here because you want to make rolls to rape the party, and then you're all confused when they're like, well, this guy sucks, let's kill him.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, that's interesting. Let's unpack a little bit of that now. Okay.
Let's unpack it.
So we got the guy who wants to be a dom in your game. So this is a player. This isn't a GM. But like, the GM's the guy who has to sort of arbitrate what's happening. So you're the GM, and you're in this situation where somebody wants to be a dom, and he's trying to S&M your other party members who aren't really into it. Now, the dice have rolled in the dom's favor. Alright? What do we do? Is the real question. So, the rule obviously says you should just fade to black. So, in this case, it would be just like, Matthias the Fleet here would you'd basically describe that's like, yes, he bonds you, and you are subjected to an ordeal.
Yeah.
The next day,
not only
do you let them leave, or are we like, what do you do? Like, you basically be like, what do you do? I don't want details. I just want you to know when. I want to know when it's over.
I'm gonna kill him.
Well, yeah. Oh, as the GM, you're just like, meteor rocks fall, you die.
No, I was one of the players. I think actually Swampy was the GM for this one.
Yeah.
And it was just completely out of the blue, like that this was happening to my character. Because it's like, well, what the hell? We're on a smuggling pirate mission, and I'm locked in a crate because Minotaurs are outlawed.
So he went like that with that black guy on Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm going to climb into the crate with Jax. And I'm like, what are you doing? And like, to clarify for anyone listening, we're not laughing at the topic. We're laughing at the character Matthias Flittis, and you, if you knew him, you'd know why. But where was I going with that?
Some people who play Dungeons and Dragons are slightly socially awkward
and slightly shouldn't play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, the game of the imagination. Sometimes their imagination is a little bit too vivid.
Yeah, and like that's kind of what I was getting at. Is like, no one wants to, like, we're on a pirate mission. No one wants to play your BDSM RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So context matters.
Context always matters.
Now, I don't know how Swampy handled that. Did he allow Matthias the Fleet to basically describe what he wanted to do and then make rolls happen? Like, did this go on?
No, I'm pretty sure he was like pulled aside at the end of the session. It was like, hey, dude, you gotta like tone it down. Like, I know you're just trying to play a character, but
during the session, did this occur?
During the session, I think there was a kibosh put on it.
It faded to black, and then we talked to him later.
It faded to black, and we talked to him later. Mostly because, as I mentioned, I was the meat shield and he was a sorcerer. So, like, one run through with a long sword and that guy's toast. You got to make a new character, and what's your new character going to be like? Is he just going to be is he going to be sub?
Yeah.
to the Dom that just died. Like, what's happening? Are you gonna make the Gimp next, or what's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not cool. It adds a completely, like you said, cringy aspect to the game. It doesn't only leave a bad taste in the mouths of the players that have been involved in this sort of act. It leaves a bad taste in the mouth of the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
because again, you never know who you're playing with, right? Like,
yeah.
Because like the other players could be like, I don't want to play this game anymore.
Well, yeah, and you get that sometimes
Yeah.
especially if you're playing with ladies. And,
Well, not
and stuff
even
like
just
that
ladies.
happens.
It could be anybody. It's just.
Well, yeah, it could be, but
it's
I found that
uncomfortable and like
ladies
if the GM allows it, that's even worse in my opinion. Like I would quit a game that the GM was allowing this to happen in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it faded to black.
Well, if it faded to black, I might be like, okay, but like the underlying
it's
tone
like
is still
okay,
there.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Like it.
That's just I might stay in the game, but I probably won't want to play that character anymore.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the dangers that I'm glad we sort of got into that point. One of the previous rules sort of touched on the idea that the players want to play the character and play their story, right?
Yeah.
Like their story is the one they want to tell, and non-consensual sexual encounters are usually not part of the story, the epic, the Lord of the Rings tale they wish to
No,
weave.
of course not. Nobody wants to play Game of Thrones, the D&D campaign.
Well, I'm sure that there are some people who would think it'd be fine if they were playing, if they were the raper, but the guy who's playing the victim is definitely not going to be happy with the role that he's sallied with.
No, of
now,
course not. It
like,
hits you in the feel bads, right? Like, it
Yeah.
really ruins the tone of the game, and it's like, okay, well, I guess this is in my character's history now. Like,
being the guy who ate the sausage, I don't remember who the hell that is.
yeah.
I'm sure people have less scruples about that, especially if they're doing the NPCs or whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, definitely. You would never want to play that Kraken guy or whatever his name is. You know, the guy who got dickless. Spoilers, Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's probably Game of Thrones.
I don't think you
Theon
ever want to go
Greyjoy
through
is a
that. Which
eunuch.
brings us, I guess that's a good transition to the torture thing, right?
This one, this one I'm kind of on the fence about.
Really?
Because I mean, I know D&D and writing are two different things, but writing you can use torture to advance the plot, the storyline. So I think the transition for D&D would be you can use torture to advance the plot or the story or whatever you're doing, so long as you're not torturing the players. If you're torturing secondary players that they care about, I think you could get away with that.
The idea of the rule also is it's supposed to be on camera,
Okay.
right? So when I was in high school, this is high school, Brian, so I don't do this now, obviously, but I put characters in situations where I would torture them. And basically, well, they were against an Inquisition, and the Inquisition captured them.
Okay. See, and
So this is the situation, and it's like, we want the information from you. And
that's accurate, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
canon
it
with
sucked,
Inquisition.
which is where this rule started coming from, because
Yeah.
I reflected on that, and I've done other things in my GMing career before this kind of rule started happening. Usually it was heavily punishing male players that play women and try to seduce people.
Ooh.
But like even then, it's you're skirting this line, this hard line, where it's
Absolutely you are.
It's not quite appropriate. But like the torture thing, the problem I found with the torture, and actually almost any of these, is they go on too long.
Yeah.
Like in your game, things happen. Sometimes characters die, sometimes stuff happens, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a problem if you say this happens to you. Think about it for a second, and we're not going to delve on it. You know, stuff happens. You receive scars. You know, fade to black. Next day, you're in your jail cell. You know, whatever. But
No, I completely agree with that. Like that, it goes on too long. Because I did play in a campaign once where what was going on was we were in some sort of orc village, and our GM had set it up so that there was like this orcish bar where they had like nipple clamps and stuff on the wall. It was basically just like a fetish bar. And like, I swear, for like 15 minutes, people went on with the fetish of using these orcish nipple clamps that were on the wall, and I was just like, what does this have to do with the mission? This has nothing to do with the mission. This is just some sort of perverse encounter that we've happened upon randomly because the GM is an idiot.
Yeah. So you get these sort of... as we've said, it creates this awkwardness where you're just like, how am I supposed to react to this? I just want to murder this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
I just want to burn down the fetish bar we've walked into. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. And...
I think I did, actually.
Yeah. and it creates that situation. And if the problems really definitely start occurring when your PCs become the victim of some weird stuff like this, and then they develop a hatred, but they can't retaliate. And now you've given them a trauma. Like, you give your players a trauma, and now they want to avenge the characters that they're playing. Like, I guess...
Or they just want to quit.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. If they can't retaliate, or they can't get their catharsis, I guess, they just fucking quit and your game dies.
No one likes to have... no one likes to have the choice eliminated from their D&D character.
Yeah.
It's just like, screw you, you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, going back to torture, though, just to touch on the point you had made before, where you said you had created some sort of torture scenario for the players. In my own experiences, I ran like kind of a jigsaw saw type dungeon.
Okay, that sounds
It's
cool.
just kind of a dungeon crawl, but like, what had happened was, anytime they came across one of my puzzles that you had to solve either through intelligence or mutilation, we had one character in the party, same guy who was DMing the orcish nipple clamp thing, and he would just stick his hands or his leg in the trap, and then by the end of the dungeon, he was pretty much just a torso hopping around on a leg, because I had cauterized the wound so he would stay alive.
Yep.
Good rolls on the saving throws, and yeah, he was alive. And he's just like, I hate this. And I'm just like, Eric, you gotta make a new guy.
You can't. All right, yeah.
Nobody knows who Eric is. Come on.
Fine.
He's not listening.
It's extremely popular.
Eric, I'm sorry, and I think you did make a new guy for that.
All right, so yeah, okay.
It's my bad. I'm gonna stop noxing people because I noxed Bran last time.
There it is again.
There it is again. For those of you listening, my name's Ian.
All right, well, hot off of our doxing.
Yeah. Doxalicious, baby.
Dogsalicious. Yeah. There's. Yeah, so like the torture thing, just to sort of go into the details of what actually sort of happened. I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but I tried to prolong it because I wanted them to confess, right? Or say the piece of information. I don't even remember. It was like, it was easily a couple decades ago.
Okay.
Like this was a long ass time ago. I don't remember the details of the DM.
Were you like 10?
Yeah.
And you're making up torture?
No, it wasn't 10. It was high school. So.
That's like teenage years. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, it was 20 years
I don't
ago.
actually really know.
It was maybe 19.
So that's good.
Yeah. Anyway. So, with that said, yeah, so I would go through it and be like, this happens, you feel, X pain, and what ends up happening is they either just ignore it, and they go, oh, whatever, I'm still not going to talk.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay, well, I have to escalate, and escalate, and escalate, and you end up either they just don't bother with it, or you end up in this weird situation where they actually try to roleplay it. And looking back, I think they ended up not confessing, because obviously they actually don't have any skin in the game, like not for reals. But it ended up being it was a weird scene, and yeah, it lasted probably about 15 minutes.
That's too long, man.
Oh yeah,
That's
way too long. But that was the point. Like that's where this rule sort of came from. Was that almost specifically that story? And yeah, it created this really weird, awkward atmosphere, and we moved along, but it was not. We sort of recovered from it, like, because we all knew each other and stuff like that, but I don't think the character was like as cool after that. Like
well, it leaves a scar, right?
Yeah,
it leaves either emotional or pseudoly emotional scar.
Yeah, and any other time stuff like this had ever happened, you could see what, like, it was a revisit of the same ideas. It's, you're creating this situation where the players or the GM is put in, like, that was another thing too. Like, sometimes the players will start torturing NPCs. Well, because, like, say you have a goblin, and the goblin warns you want to know where the Goblin King is, so you start cutting off his fingers and stuff, and you're just like, okay, do I really want to play the screaming goblin who's, like, crying and weeping because you're ripping off his fingers? And I've done that.
You kind of have to, though.
I've done that, though.
If that's how they want to play it, then you have to do that.
Like, they tried doing something like that to a kobold in one of those games, like, in that same game, in a previous thing, and I ended up biting off the character's nose, because he's, like, shaking the kobold, and I'm just like, no, he takes the nip, boom, hits, cuts out, like, cold shot your nose with his mouth, fucking bites off your nose.
And see, that
Excuse
is
my
a
English.
danger.
But, like, yeah, and that was the point. I was like, I don't want to deal with torture anymore, boys. Like, let's not do this. Or I think it was later in the game.
Well, no, and I've had similar scenarios where, like, some of the party will be like, well, let's just beat it out of him, or let's cut off his toes or something. But then that also advances player character, because if you have, like, lawful good people, or even just neutral good, they'd be like, this is wrong, and try to stop you.
Yeah.
And maybe it causes a divide in the party, maybe it offers a chance for a little bit of rehabilitation on the part of the torturer, but there's some growth there.
So, the solution would probably, like we were saying, the fade to black. In case of torture, though, it'd probably be, like, brief descriptions. Like, you give him the knocks, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't talk. You'll have to go deeper, or you'll have to give up. And it's like, make a roll. Go deeper, give up. Go deeper, give up. And then you just sort of... You don't have to explain what's happening, but you could just very lightly say, it's like, he's got cuts. He's looking bad. He's bleeding out.
Yeah.
You're keeping him barely alive. The healing magic of your cleric is the only thing keeping this thing alive.
Yeah.
You can barely call this human anymore. It still hasn't talked. Can you go deeper?
Yeah.
And then you would probably, at some point, have to just be like, it stops working. They die. But, like, the whole scenario should probably take no more than a minute, 2 minutes, because everybody's discussing.
You can't sit there dealing non-lethal damage for an hour.
Definitely no damage rolls or anything stupid like that. The worst would just be, like, an intimidation check, probably. Like, make one roll. One roll, did you get it? You did your shitty thing. Did it work? Yes, no. I'll give you a bonus because you're shitty. I'll give you a shitty people bonus. And that's it. And that's about the best you can do with the torture scenario. Like, I can't... Unless, like I said, once again, and this is not even an argument, unless everybody's just like, we really want to explore the themes of torture and acting like total, like, wackos.
Maybe don't DM for that party, then.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. But, like, if everybody's into it, I guess it's okay. You can all be, like, Sonic Fur Pile people. Yeah. Oh, man. The in-jokes. Okay, well, I think we've covered rape, because, the victim hates it, and nobody wants to watch it.
The party hates it, and everyone
let's not
hates
explain it.
No,
it's
just
get
stay away from it. It's
torture,
not good,
same
man.
idea, but, like, it's not... I would say it's not as bad. Like, it is bad, but it's not as bad because it's a different... It fits better in a fantasy setting, and the themes make a certain sense. Like, anybody watching 24 or whatever, you can sort of see what's going on here, where it's like, time is of the essence, I need to know,
Yeah, if I may interject, though, did we touch on any actual dangers of torture, other than, like, time restrictions?
Well, you mean, like, the danger is too great?
Yeah.
Oh, well...
I would say, like, you had indirectly brought up one, and that would be indifference. Because, like, if someone just brushes it off and they're like, yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
Then that kind of attitude ripples out into the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be probably one of the major
the player
problems
has taken
with
a
torture.
begrudging stance.
Yeah, you suddenly turned his character that he thinks is cool into a character that he doesn't think is as cool, and he separates himself from the game to the point where eventually he'll just like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I don't care.
And then my characters are cooler than him, and I'm showing them off.
That's right. That's right. And that's no good. And you can't do that. But like having having consequences for actions, I think, is okay. Like, if they get captured by the Inquisition, let's say, and they get tortured, that's a thing. You know, in character, deal with that, but you don't need to, you know, do the berserk thing and explain exactly what you did to Griffin.
Yeah.
In every gory detail. You just say he's a broken man right now. You know, play a broken man, see if you can get out of it. So be it. And if that's not the character they wanted to play, I guess that's the other danger too, right? You know, D&D is a game. It's kind of lighthearted. Like, if people want to explore darker themes, or I guess if the GM is just like, no, if you get captured, this bad is going to happen to you. And if they're well aware before they take the risks, I think for the purposes of the game, that might be okay. But once again, like, if you create if you break a character, make them into a shell of their former selves using torture or rape or well, the third one's a lot tamer.
Yeah.
But the first two, you've altered their character against their will, and I think that is the danger in those two scenarios that ultimately is too great. Where it's, you know, their fun, cool character has now become your shitty character.
Yeah.
And unless this was something that they agree to, like, I guess you could always, like, wink, wink, nod, nod, say no more, these guys. Like, he's just like, this is going to happen to you. Are you okay with this?
Yeah.
You know? Well, either that or they'll just ignore it. And that, I guess that's okay, too, for their character. But, once again,
but for the player, that's not so okay.
Yeah, and the player, once again, he just disjoints. He detaches from it. It just suddenly becomes like, yo, I was totally tortured and I'm fine, whatever, it's no big deal.
Yeah. Now going the other way, though, on torture, because I just thought of a point. Now, would we count maiming as torture?
No.
No?
Like, you mean, you know, you're fighting the orc gets a swooning strike, and he chooses to cut off your hand, like a la Star Wars?
Yeah.
No, that's not torture.
Okay, but what if it's like a la Jaime Lannister, where they put his hand down on the stump and they chop it off? Spoiler alert.
Okay, so
that's a little more
he's
torturous.
Captured. They don't do the thing, and then they chop off your hand.
Yeah.
That's like a single.
That's like a single act of torture.
I would say that's a single act of torture. They chop off your hand, throw you back in a cage, and tell you they'll chop off the other one if you don't respond. Do you respond? Yes, no, and.
Because, like, I've had characters in one of my campaigns that, like, lost a hand.
Yeah.
And instead of just being all boo about it, he, like, went and saw a blacksmith and they grafted a shield onto his hand.
And that, like, if the characters can cope with these changes that you've thrust upon them, then that's so be it. And, like, assuming everyone's playing the Game of Thrones game, right? And someone got captured and this stuff happens, like, this rule... The rule sort of is not really about saying that something happened to somebody and then not deal, like, being like, don't put scary things in your game.
Yeah.
It's we don't need to have a session of you basically torture porning this guy for 40 minutes or something like that. Like, it's more about the duration that you're putting into these things. Because these are topics that make people uncomfortable. And I don't want to get all, like, virtue-y on this, because that's horse crap. But at the end of the day, you're playing a game. You know, nobody wants to play Rape Monopoly.
Exactly.
So,
that was the point I made earlier. It's like, no one wants to play that kind of game.
Yeah.
Rape and game don't mix.
Yeah, Torture Monopoly would be the same thing. Like, people don't play D&D to have their character tortured. But, like, things happen. Things happen because it's a medieval setting.
Yeah.
But that's why the idea is they fade to black. It's not that they shouldn't happen. It's that we shouldn't dwell on the present moment so acutely that the game becomes cringy? Yeah. That the game becomes cringy.
I'll amend your point just by saying that torture, yes, should happen, fade to black if it's necessary for the game. But I will amend and say that rape should just never happen in the game. I would put a kibosh on that completely. I'd probably punish a character if that's what they were trying to do in my game.
Yeah.
Just because I'd get salty about it and I'd be like, ruining my game! And I'd just like go at them and I'd be like, okay, so Bahamut comes down and he's got a +9 Goron big sword and let's go.
Let's go.
Roll initiative,
Says he wants to rape you.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
See, and that's not okay either. I wouldn't do that.
But yeah, that's a hard line in your game,
Yeah.
obviously. And if people start trying to cross it,
Exactly.
I'm sure you'll give them a subtle, blunt hint.
It's not going to be that.
This is not
I'm
cool.
I'm gonna smelt their genitals.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking gold member here.
Yeah, that's fine. And that's your game. Like,
Yeah.
you can do that. And that's like I don't. That's obviously not the right way. That's not the right way to run a game, and the game has a tendency like that. Once again, this is like your reaction to that is the perfect reason why you shouldn't be doing this in the first place.
Yeah.
Because you're obviously not going to be happy by that, and you're going to start just basically busting the rest of the if this game keeps going, like keeping the game together rules, which is what these all are.
Yeah.
And you're just gonna say fuck it. I'm just gonna bring my plot T-Rex down, and Bahamut with his +9 freaking sword of kicking your ass and giving you the sodomy is gonna come down and make your life miserable.
That's how it goes.
And the other guy's gonna be like, well, this is bullcrap. I was playing a character. It's like, yeah, but I don't want to play your stupid game where you run around being a rapist. Like, no. I don't care. Your game is stupid now. And I guess that leads to a slightly broader point that, yeah, like the GM is a player too. And he doesn't have to put up with your crap. Like he can just quit. And if he quits, the game ends.
Yeah, it's the thing that you guys said, or that we said last week, where players should be proactive and GM should be reactive.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing this, I'm going to react.
Yeah, and my reaction is going to be basically burn the game, and if we can move on after I try burning the game,
because I can do that, because I'm the GM.
Yeah, because you're the storyteller.
Exactly.
Which is a bad way of thinking
Which is a bad way of thinking about it.
But in these situations, guess what? The GM stops caring about making a game that's cohesive and now just cares about punishing you for being an ass.
Exactly. Now I'm going to smite you. Because I have become the god Bahamut.
Yeah. So... okay, I think we've covered the first two.
Yes.
We know the dangers.
Yep.
But let's go into the nuanced one. Because the second part is, I think, the one that bears a little bit more discussion. Mm-hmm. And I'm playing a character right now in another game that sort of tries to push the boundaries of this a little bit.
Of the sexual encounters?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am. I'm definitely doing that. And... obviously, I'm doing the fade to black thing. Like, this is, like, as a player, I'm just like, hey, fade to black. And the other players are just like, no thanks. I'm like, you fucker. But, like, whatever. That's fine. But, like, I'm trying to push the boundaries of this. I was doing it on purpose. Anyway. But this is the part that I think is interesting. So, University Bryant... I can think that probably put this in for the same reasons as the first two. If you dwell on this stuff too long, it becomes weird for everybody else.
Yep.
And if the GM starts dwelling on this is, I think the thinking at the time was, like I said, there's like a lot of games where you have these socially awkward guys. The GM is a person of power and authority, and sometimes there are female characters, or vice versa. Like, often the female characters are the worst for it. Like, the female players are the worst for initiating sexual encounters with other players. I don't know what it is, but they are the ones who they love it. They love this stuff. Especially if it's like, if they're playing a male character and they want to do this, like, this other male character and they want to get all fanny, like all I don't know what that website is where they write their own fan fictions.
There's a lot of websites. Reddit?
Yeah. Sure, Reddit.
Yeah.
Tumblr.
Tumblr, Grindr, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't use any of that shit.
Yeah, me either.
But anyway, yeah, this like weird shipping fan fiction stuff that
it's things that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Like that whole fanfic that's long running of Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, then they're secretly a gay couple through the whole book.
I'm not familiar,
but man, it's wild.
Yeah, it keeps going, does it?
It's been going for like 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's
pretty bad.
I'm guessing that person has some sort of Patreon or something. Like they have a hipster bucket that people could put shillings in. Yeah, perfect.
Piss in the pot,
Whatever. Obviously, somebody likes seeing those two hammer it out.
Anyway, moving back to
work out their differences.
Moving back to the question at hand.
Yeah. So, I guess what do you think would be where do you think it would be inappropriate? Is the question. Like, where do you think it would be inappropriate?
Well, I mean, I think it follows the same rule as the last one we were talking about, and it's mostly just time constraint. Because like I played in a campaign once where I had 2 female characters played by females, and they were seducing the guard captain to get him drunk, knock him out, steal his keys, rescue the rest of the party from prison.
Yeah.
And I'm GMing this, and I'm like, I'm kind of getting frustrated. I'm like, okay, he's passed out. Case passed out. Case passed out, and they just keep going. And I'm
like, we undo his belt.
Yeah, we gotta make it look realistic, so he thinks he's actually had sex. And it's like
we gotta make sure that there's lip goo on.
Exactly. All you had to do was steal his keys and go to the jail. He's the only man in the building. The other guards are out on patrol. They'll be back in 20 minutes, and y'all just
they're
need
just
to
thirsty and they want to taste.
And it's like, can we not? And and as the GM, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're doing this. All right, keep describing it. Oh yeah, this is, and like there's 3 other people sitting there, and everyone's real uncomfortable looking at their phones, and I'm like, guys, this is not 50 Shades of Chainmail. So let's get a move on here. Rescue the 3 people who are sitting here cuckolding in prison, and let's go.
Just sitting in their cage, can't leave, watching the 2 ladies go on the guard.
Yeah, and the guard is passed out at this point. Like, unless you're propping it up with popsicle sticks.
I guess that's technically rape, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting worse, man. Like there was no penetrative acts. There was nothing like that. But like we gotta make it look real.
Oh no, but like that's a perfect example.
What point of this do you have to make it look real?
Like you could have solved this whole problem by saying you fillet the guard, have a great day, you take his keys.
That's it. That's
all you do. Like I don't know why you decided you needed to do that, but you did it. Like there you go, fade to black for like 1/2 scene. And we've got the keys. Everybody's like, well, that was weird.
Yeah.
Click.
Because like, then you're sitting, you're like, well, I know what A and B are into now. So I think I know too much, and can you call my mom to come pick me up? Like, for Christ's sakes, wrap it up. Literally. And this is a funner topic than the last 2.
Oh, well, yeah, because... What the hell, man? Like, just look at it.
So yeah, I think
breeds awkward conversation.
Exactly. Time constraint is a thing, just like with the other 2. Don't spend half an hour on it. Nobody cares that much. And you broke a rule. What was I going with that?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Another thing is detail. Don't go into too much detail. No one wants to know what your character's tits or dick looks like, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think, like, sexual relationships, or even, like, marriage, like, actual relationships between players, or even a player and an NPC, is that okay in a game? Do you think that would work?
I think it's a waste of time.
Do you?
Yeah. Well, maybe not player to player, but, like, player to NPC, yeah, it's like, you've now given me this person you care about, and if at any point you infuriate me or I need some sort of initiative from you, I'm gonna mess up that NPC's day.
Wouldn't that be okay though? Like that's another hook for the player. Then like adds to their story.
Get real salty about that.
Oh, so.
All right. Yeah, I guess that's okay.
Okay.
Like, I do think it's a waste of time though. Like if you're sitting there, if it's a scenario where you're now playing The Sims, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying playing The Sims. Yeah. Like I'm talking about like.
I'm not going to describe your wedding for you. You tell me about your wedding.
Do orcs attack?
Probably.
Okay.
If you go over 5 minutes on this, yes, orc attacks.
Okay, well that makes sense. Like, things like this D&D is kind of a game. It spans sort of all sorts of genres.
Yeah.
But the romance genre, I guess, is one that's sort of. It's one of the ones that I think people are not very comfortable with. Like personally, as a GM, I would say it's okay. Like I've even done like office comedies in D&D. Oh yeah. People were more interested in knowing what the accountant in the castle was up to than they were about doing some sort of sword and sorcery style quest. Oh yeah. He had the game took a totally different direction than I thought it would, so I rolled with it. I was like, fine. You know, he has a family, and he's interested in this other character, and he's trying to convince her family to like condone some arranged marriage between the two of them. And
dude, I would go chaotic stupid in that whole game.
They were into it. They thought that was more interesting. Like that wasn't my story. That was me going, okay, boys, I guess I have to write up this accountant character
because the details of your plot are irrelevant. Don't matter.
Yeah, it was because my game was like I was trying to run Big Trouble in Little China, and they ran The Office.
Okay, yeah, I get it now. Like Big Trouble in Little China would be fun, but The Office, I don't want to play The Office.
Too bad they did.
That's me personally. That's not my cup of tea. I mean, if that's somebody else's cup of tea, sure. If you want to play, if you're Toby and somebody else is Ryan, and somebody wants to be whatever Mindy Kaling's character's name was, sure.
Yeah. Like that's what ended up happening.
Pan and Jim, baby.
The game didn't last that long just because other things occurred that weren't a part of that game.
I hope so.
But no, the game was ultimately successful. It's just that people stopped. Life got in the way of the game, and that seems to be the problem. With
Your show was canceled.
My show was canceled. Yeah, people didn't want to watch.
How many camera looks did they do?
Lots, so many camera looks, as many as possible.
Yeah.
But
I think just moving back to the topic. I think sexual encounters. I'm voting favorably. There's a lot of things you can use them for: gathering information, creating a bond. Or getting on the inside of an organization, or even just if your characters happen to fall in love. But, addendum on that, if you are a couple outside of game and your characters are miraculously falling in love, and it's just for the cheese of your personal romance, I'm gonna smite you so hard.
Oh yeah.
There will be orc attacks at your weddings. Your ushers will be turned into pallbearers because weddings and funerals are very similar. Everyone's already dressed up, so it's fine. And
Yeah, that's another thing. Like these rules, they're broad, but this is one of those like acute ideas where it's like, yeah, you guys got two characters. You just started going out like 2 weeks ago, and now our characters are in love.
Roll for love.
Yeah, roll for
Crit
love.
20. Sex before marriage. Anyway, that got a little out of control for a minute there.
Yeah, you took the tangent, but even still, like. That's real dumb, and usually it's real dumb because it's getting shoehorned in.
Yeah.
Like very few times the orcish barbarian really does fall in love with the half ogre, bard.
Yeah.
Wizard. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a really bad coupling. Pretty much anything.
Bowser and Peach.
Yeah, Bowser and
Horrible
Peach.
couple.
They're the best couple. What are you talking about?
Oh, come on.
Anyway.
They have that weird Italian plumber that keeps coming and ruining their
Well,
date.
yeah, that's Peach's ex. He just can't get over it.
Anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, the
I think there's
like because I've had a game, and it was one of the best games I ran, where I played female.
Yep.
And the other character that played was obviously dude. Yeah. And well, I guess not obviously. Current year, but we just sort of like it was a subtext. Like we never actually had the marriage or anything like that. But the subtext was that we became a couple, and then we became a couple, and then we from there sort of got married. But it was all kind of off camera. But I found that like that was one of those games where there was some intense sort of role play. I guess it wasn't like ERP or anything goofy like that. There was no dates. There's nothing like that, but like the whole point of the game was to try to get into character, like very much get into character. And what I found was it helped sort of create this weird bond. Like it was a 3-man party, and I found that it created a sort of like, this is my family between two characters, and then the third guy out was like not my family. Like he was just like a whomever. So, yeah. I guess my question then would be something along the lines of, like, what do you think of sort of PCs developing a sort of relationship? Like, this was a long time ago. But, yeah. Like, what do you think of that kind of thing? Like, it doesn't have to be like, hey guys, we're gonna spend a lot of time on The Office or on not on The Office, on the marriage or go on a date or anything goofy like that. But like, you know, maybe only like the only time you really hear about it is like maybe if it comes up in a conversation in character, or if the GM is all like, so what do you guys do for the next little while? It's like, oh yeah, we go on a date. You know, we're gonna go do X, Y, and Z. All right, have a good time. You know, what do you think of this kind of thing?
I think I'm okay with that. Again, as long as there's not too much time spent on it, I'm all for characters having relationships. I've never been in the scenario where it's like a kind of husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever have you. I've never been in that kind of scenario, but like I've played scenarios where I've had two players be father and son or father and daughter or like things like that. And yeah, you are correct. It does create a familial sense, and even like kind of like a blood thicker than water sense, where maybe they even adopt the rest of the party into their family, and that is a good way to bond the party together if they all think of themselves as family.
Yeah.
See, the only problem with that is then like, what if you just add in some sort of like shoehorn in another character, like a drop-in character that wanted to play, and you're like, well, I'll just make a character, and then they're kind of like,
are they
an
part of
interloper.
the family, or
No,
are they
they're
just some dude?
They're just an interloper.
Well, then that's part of the dynamic of the story, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, as long as it's not like, oh, I rolled to kiss my wife. And it's like, well,
critical fail, you kiss your shoe instead. You didn't know you could bend that far.
Yeah, and see that's where it gets weird. And I think that's the danger with the sexual encounters, even if in a familial or not familiar sense, is don't explain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be. Fade to black.
Fade to black.
Yeah. So I guess to just push the envelope a little, let's go outside the bounds of the words of the rules. So sometimes when two people have sexual encounters, something occurs.
A child.
Well, something happens before that child occurs.
Oh.
And
pregnancy.
Speaking
biologically?
Yeah, we are speaking biologically.
All right.
Do you think? And this is one of those fun little. This is one of the things that I'm pushing on my GM right now.
Yeah,
I'm trying to see where he'll go with this. Do you think that this is something that's appropriate for a Dungeons and Dragons game? Yes. Oh, that is an answer I did not expect.
Yes,
Please,
I do.
Elaborate.
Okay. Children in all species, they bring about a sense of protection. They bring about motherly or fatherly instincts. I like that. I played a game where Swampy was our GM, and we all had kind of an adoptive son. And while my character... Hey?
Was his name Timmy?
Yeah, little Timmy! Do you know about this one?
Oh yeah, I was in that game at the later part.
So basically, at that point, it was all of us vying for the role of patriarch or matriarch over little Timmy. When it fell to me, it was disastrous, but that's not the point. But children in game, I think they have to be NPCs. Unless they're adult children, like the scenario I said.
What about fetal children?
Fetal children.
And what about the characters that are playing them? So, like, say
I'd give them a minus to a lot of things.
For the sake of hilarity, a barbarian.
Okay.
Yeah. Big belly barbarian.
Yeah.
What do we do? Okay. How are we doing this?
Okay, am I the barbarian?
Well, a PC's a barbarian.
A PC's a barbarian.
And she, obviously... I guess if you cast like Dark Genesis or some weird, crazy Vile Darkness spell.
It's Arnold Schwarzenegger movies.
Yeah, but like, let's just play normal. Let's say she, she's like, 7 months in, she's showing hard.
Yeah.
What are we doing? How is this something that we play with?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
okay.
There definitely has to be like if you're 7 months in and you're a barbarian, and just barbarians by nature are fighters. I don't think you're going to have that rush into danger instinct that you did, just if you're playing correctly, because, if you do, the guy rolls real good on you and pushes you down the stairs.
Yeah, crit strike, have an abortion.
Well, shit. Especially if the child is incorporated by the GM. If the child is incorporated by the GM to be important to the storyline, like, oh, you've been immaculately conceived by by Asmodeus, and you're going to have the Antichrist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if they're incorporated like that, then yeah, I think it's really good dynamic for the game. If they're just like, hey, Joe Schmo over here knocked up your Barbarian because you guys did it in the tent.
That's sweet.
Well, then it's. I don't.
To
think
me,
it'd
that's
be that
way
important.
funnier. That's way funnier and funner than the Asmodeus plot that you put forward. The Asmodeus plot seems real lame. But Joe Schmo knocking up your Barbarian because she had too much grog and Joe Schmo was horny.
Yeah.
I think that's too funny. That's just like, 3 months in, it's like, you got a belly. You're getting fat, Miss Barbarian. She's like, that is not me getting fat. My goodness.
Now, see, if you're a good GM in this scenario, you have secretly rolled for yourself that your PC is getting pregnant.
Yeah.
That one of your players is becoming pregnant in this act.
Yeah.
Because especially if no one specified, hey, I wrapped it up, or hey, I'm on some sort of special tea that makes my womb barren.
Yeah.
And what's even better is if it's like a weird
magical
blending.
Birth control.
Yeah, it's a magic birth control.
I didn't
tea.
see that in the player's handbook.
Nightshade tea for womb clearing.
That's bullshit. That's not in the book.
You gotta go to the special apothecary.
There's no expansion.
I
to
made
deal
it
with
up.
it.
I made it up. It's not canon.
Fuck up. You can't bring your homebrew crap into this game.
Yes, you can. I'm the GM. Roll initiative.
Rule 0. Fuck. Okay.
Okay, we're getting a crazy over here.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Let's roll it back.
My wiener doesn't work. Anyway,
All right.
yes,
7 months pregnant, Barbarian. That's
7
where we
months
go.
pregnant Barbarian. What's the question again?
Is it okay?
Yeah,
What are the
it's
dangers of
great.
this?
There's no dangers in that.
So just freaking go with
I
it.
think it's fantastic.
You should have more of that.
The danger comes when you have the child. What do you do with the child?
Yeah, what do you do with the baby?
Now, if both of
That's
your
fun. That's a whole game on its own.
if the baby is the child of 2 PCs, I think you have to take it with you. It's not like Professor Oak. You can't just leave it with him. Like,
I guess you could pop it off at an orphanage
Well,
and you'd be shitty.
Well, yeah, you're a shitty person then, and your whole party hates you, or at least your GM does if your GM's me. Because you didn't take your baby with you. Why aren't you training your baby? Anyway. Yeah, but if
Bomb,
it's...
it comes down to this +9 sword.
He's
I got your baby. Baby's hungry.
Got your Goron longsword here.
Here's praying for milk. Mother's milk. Roll initiative.
Roll initiative to whip him out. Okay, moving on. This is getting cringy all in itself.
That's fine.
Yeah, if your 2 PCs have had a child, I think you have to take it with you. In fact, if I was the GM, I'd make you take it with you. I don't think that's a danger, because screw you, you have a child. This is the consequences.
Okay.
But if it's an NPC and a PC, I think you're okay to leave the child with the NPC.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Unless the NPC is like the town drunkard or something, then you probably shouldn't do that, because that's bad parenting and you're going to have CAS on you.
So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So pregnancy's fine. Sweet. You know, that's just part of life, and like, let's deal with it. Sure. You guys are adventurers, whatever, so be it. Exploring those ideas, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's a carte blanche. Watch out, Mr. Dagwood.
What?
He's the GM of the game that I'm...
Oh. Are you going to have a child in your game? Is this why you asked?
That's my goal. Have 10,000 of them.
Man. Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
I was asking him about human eggs,
Yeah.
so I can, like, just have a kid a month.
Oh,
Because druids can do all sorts of wacky crap, and I'm
Yeah.
just like, can druids do
Can you
these
speed
things?
up a pregnancy?
Yeah, or just like put it into egg format. And what happens if you wild shape? When you're like 3 months in? We determined that probably is how doppelgangers are formed.
Well,
You start doing weird shape shifting.
Wild shape is when you turn into your animal form, yeah?
Oh yeah, you can turn into any animal.
Yeah.
And you can do all sorts of weird stuff. Like you can turn into wolves, all sorts of things.
I think I had this similar kind of argument before, not on a D&D topic, but like what happens when werewolves mate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that, without going in too far into it. Yeah, the character's motivation is to basically achieve a level of personal enlightenment.
So you want to be the brood father?
Mother.
You're a female.
Oh yeah, female. Oh yeah.
Okay,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
So where are you getting the seed from? Just whoever?
Wow. I haven't gotten any yet.
Are you like?
Because we're level 10, and
Okay.
I had to ask these questions because I'm level 10, and this is one of my motivations. Like, do I have an orphanage where like an orphanage / military academy where I like send my human eggs, like, or do I even have those, or am I just running around with the big belly? Like, what's going on?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I asked these questions. I thought it was pretty good, and we figured out, like, at least in the conversation, we sort of figured out what level it would be to just sort of like based on other spells in the D&D books, like what it would be to basically move a pregnancy into an egg, like have a human egg. He didn't go for it. I think he wanted some sort of
for that. That's sweet.
I thought so.
That's really innovative.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty sweet. Like, I think just to finish the story, I guess what I'd sort of based it on was like invigorate. In 5th edition, it was going to be based on raise dead or invigorate. So the idea was just like all it's doing is, and you required like a rook egg, so like a 1,000 gold piece rook egg, to like move your pregnancy into an egg and have a bunch of like honey fluid or something. Like, it was just a bunch of material components.
It was medieval test tube babies.
Yeah, that's exactly what it ended up being. So you just were like, oh yeah, boop, here it is. Now we got an egg, and it's all set. Now the egg has to be kept warm and put in a safe place, and it'll eventually hatch into a human baby.
Cool.
And he was just like, oh, I don't know, that's too much, because he was starting to think about the consequences of that magic existing, and like how basically every noblewoman in the world would always want that every time.
Which is, I mean, that's fine.
Because you've basically eliminated the dangers of pregnancy from a medieval society.
But if you have made up this this magical solution and you can charge for it, and that's just a source of income in game.
Yeah.
It's
but druids get access to all magic.
Start a business.
So, like, if this magic is possible for druids, then logically the druids would have had it. Anyway, we're devolving into the stupidity of my individual character.
Yeah.
But
trying to start fertility clinics.
Yeah, pretty
My
much.
one question on this, just my last question. Were you thinking, like, are you going to have sex with 10,000 people, or one person 10,000 times, or
whatever.
are you just going to, like, milk men?
Well, it turned... No, I'm not going to. I'm not going to put them in, like on hooks or something and just milk them, like,
that's not what I mean, but, like, you know how sperm donations are...
No, straight up.
How they
do
get
it the
bull
fun
semen?
way. No, do it the fun way. I'm not going to get artificially inseminated. That's horseshit.
I mean, I think the bull semen way is the fun way.
Well, you're a druid, I guess.
Yeah,
you can turn into a cow. I suppose.
So you get
but then
all
that's
that
how minotaurs happen.
Oh no, minotaurs are
we came, like, just as a tangent, we came to the conclusion that it's not wizards that make this shit. Wizards are getting a bad rap because druids are just spreading rumors because they're all sexual deviants.
Fucking druids.
They're just like, yeah, man, I fucked a bull last night and now I'm gonna stay human. Haha. Guess what, minotaurs? Owlbear? Yeah, exactly. Now I'm an owl. I laid an egg. See you later.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Made me smile. All those Path of the Moon, if you're playing 5th edition, because they can, I think, keep their form forever or something. They don't turn back, or I don't know. It doesn't.
As a GM, I would have allowed your scenario. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm pushing for it. It's
Absolutely.
Fine. It's fine. I'm getting what I want. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, this is obviously not the whole character. The characters. This is just like a tiny, like, under the motivation category, there's like a blurb of 2 sentences, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on. But like,
I never fill out the motivation category.
I do, because it's like it puts the ideas on paper.
Yeah.
But okay, so I think we've covered pregnancy. What about diseases? What about diseases that occur as a result of promiscuity?
Oh yes.
Are we gonna put those in here?
I'm in favor of those.
Does the plague god have reign over promiscuity?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you contract orcish crotch rot, or if you contract genital leprosy from fucking the good old mud dwarves, then yeah. I mean, of course, 100%. Especially if you're human, because I think humans are a little more susceptible to things like that in my brain. Like orcs, or like the hardier races, I'd be like, okay, roll for it. It's like any disease. But humans, I'm like, yeah, you're just gonna get this. You have fairy herpes, and you have a permanent erection.
If nothing comes out of this discussion, I think the 2 lines: you have fairy herpes and crit fail your water breaks. That's it. We're good. You know, critical strike, you get an abortion.
Yeah, man.
these are the jewels that we do this cast for.
Yeah.
Like, that's specifically. If I ever wrote a book,
Diamonds in the rough.
that's going to be in italics, like a quote.
Yeah.
The Barbarian. Crit says you get an abortion. Perfect. Alright, so I guess we can sort of do a quick recap here. Let's take a look at this rule here. Torture, rape, and sexual encounter should fade to black. The danger is too great. We've covered the danger, we've covered torture, we've covered rape, we've covered sexual encounters. We've gone a little bit beyond the sexual encounters. We've talked about fading to black. You know, that means pretty much exactly what it means. You know, like, we don't need to dwell on these things. You can say exactly what it is.
Yeah, but the consequences still need to be there.
Yeah, and the consequences are good. You know, diseases and babies and that, all that stuff. Like, you know, you can't have one without the other. And in fact, it probably enhances the story.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that, actually.
But even for the first two, like, the consequences need to be there.
Yeah.
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 They can't fade to black all the way.
No, this happened. Think about it.
Fade to gray.
Well, this happened. Fade to black. And then when it unfades, you are in the dungeon having been subjected to this.
Yes.
You know, we don't have to explain what it is. You don't have to roleplay it. But think about what this meant for your character, and, you know, come back in a minute or so and let me know.
Fair.
So, I guess I'll let you have a closing comment, and I'll make a closing comment, and that will be it.
Closing comments. Rape is never okay in real life or in game. Torture, don't do it in real life, in game if you have to, but don't push the envelope with it because, I mean, torture is torture, man. Come on. And, yeah, sexual encounters, I'm all for. So long as, again, they fade to black, or if you have children, don't leave them at the orphanage, or I'm going to smite you. So...
That's fair. Okay, so I think maybe almost a parallel. Rape and torture, these are things that happen. I would say if you're going to use them, be prepared for what that means. Don't... Like, as a player and as a GM, especially as a GM, because that's what these rules are for, you can't control your players, but you can sort of... You can choose when to fade to black. You can put the kibosh on stupid scenes.
Yeah.
And you are the arbiter of this. So use it well as the GM, because nobody wants to listen to how, you know, your party covers themselves, like wears diapers and decides to lick each other's feet. You know, nobody's interested in that crap, except for those people, and they can do that on their ERP chat.
Yeah, man.
On, I don't know, wherever they do that. World of Warcraft Goldshire, I guess that's the place for that shit. As for sexual encounters, if you got a mature group, I think those are sweet. They work great. Like, as long as everybody understands that it's real stupid to, like, start talking about diddling each other for 15 minutes while other people watch. Like, we're not in, you know, cockatrices and cuckolds. You know, we're playing Dungeons and Dragons. So, like, you know, if characters develop interpersonal relationships that are physical or even just marital, like, because the sexual encounters sometimes implies marriages and shit like that. Like, interpersonal relationships are a thing, and it's kind of nice to be able to explore that, especially if you're playing male and female characters. You know, sometimes men only play men, sometimes men only play women, and vice versa. But, like, it's okay. And definitely as a GM, I would say, yeah, I would agree with the Barbarian here and say children, pregnancy, diseases, the whole freaking kit and caboodle. Like, that's all sweet. And what it does is it creates an aspect to your game that the players might not have thought about originally, but might want, well, even if they don't want, might have to deal with. And it also creates a moral compass, right? You know, say they have a pregnant barbarian. Are you going to tell her to stick to the back because she's pregnant? And how's the proud barbarian warrior woman going to deal with that? Like, is she just going to say, fuck, excuse my language, is she going to say bugger off, go rage, and start attacking? And if that's the case, are we going to get a crit fail, have an abortion scenario? Like, well, it's kind of interesting. Like, that might be something worth looking up. And once again, though, you get into that, just like the tape, rape, torture, and things. Like, I think we can fade to black the pregnancy, like the birth.
No. We cannot.
Well, finish the combat. You're incapacitated.
A point on that, actually. I know we're in closing comments.
That's fine.
I know we're in closing comments, but a point on that. If you are a barbarian and you are in berserker mode and you go into labor, does your baby come out in berserker mode?
Of course. And
Of
it probably has a
course.
full beard and a Viking.
So
helmet.
it's not waiting for you to push, it's ripping its way out.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, maybe.
That's why you don't fade to black on the
Hey,
pregnancy.
who knows? That could be fun.
Circumstances.
All right, so I hope you guys aren't curled up in a cringe ball listening to this. I hope you enjoyed it. I think next week, let me just pull out my trusty paper here to see what the next rule is. What do we got here? Oh! The next rule is a very interesting one, and I think we'll actually have a more D&D topical discussion than talking about fur porn. So rule number 6 is game balance is inherent to storytelling. With the addendum, it's okay to abuse the system because powerful people exist. So with that said, I hope everybody enjoyed the show. You guys all take care and have yourselves a great night.